Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, friends. It's time for Star Trek the Original Series, specifically Season 3, Episode 2, The Enterprise Incident. The deeper we get into Season 3, the more I'm going to feel the bittersweet, homesick quality of ending this fantastic series, but I must appreciate in the moment each and every one of these fabulous episodes we get to enjoy, especially together, my friends, because the Star Trek the Original Series community has been a godsend for me, and I appreciate each and every one of you watching. If you could do me a favor before we get started, though, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It greatly helps out a small channel, and it enables me to alert you next time we go live with Star Trek. And of course, if there's anything that we do that you would like early or in its full-length format, the link to our Patreon is in the description, my friends. But all that is then and this is now, and now it's time for the second episode of the third season of Star Trek the Original Series, The Enterprise Incident. Prepare to engage maximum warp reaction. And away we go! Look at that. Through the stars, a beauty.
I'm concerned about Captain Kirk. He shows indications of increasing tension and emotional stress.
Really?
I did give a full report on it.
Yes, Mr. Spock, that was the past. I'm concerned with the present.
Sensor scan to 1/2 parsec. Negative, Captain.
Very well.
Very well.
Change course, come about to 185 Mark III.
Why? We're not allowed to ask that, but I'm asking.
The neutral zone. Yes, very perceptive, Mr. Sulu. I know where the course change takes us. Execute. Aye, sir.
Is this Jim? The Sulu side-eye.
All scanners report clear. Nothing in our immediate vicinity.
You wouldn't see it anyway.
Captain, leaving neutral zone. Now entering Romulan space.
Very well, Mr. Sulu.
Whoa.
The order to enter the neutral zone.
There's been no order I know of, Mr. Scott.
If you two have any complaints, you can bring them out into the open.
Speaking about out into the open.
That's a Klingon ship.
I was going to say, that's Klingon.
Intelligence reports Romulans now using Klingon design.
Sound red alert.
Really? What?
Second ship has appeared.
Ruh-roh. All right, what's going on?
We are surrounded.
All right, Jim's going to tell us about the final frontier. Okay, so Jim's acting weird. He's been acting weird. He's biting the heads off of everybody. We had McCoy give us the open narration, so it's, you know, to establish the fact that he has not been able to do either a psychological evaluation or a medical evaluation. I'm assuming medical because he didn't mention it. And if that's the case, I'm wondering, I'm very curious now, is this actually Jim? Because to absolutely throw out the idea of, maintaining the integrity and the sovereignty of the neutral zone in Romulan space doesn't seem like a thing that Jim would just do willy-nilly. So unless he's got a reason or a rationale for it, like he needs the Romulans for something, and this is the only way to kind of like, make sure that they'll talk to you, it seems like a hell of a risk. Especially since it has to be against regulations, but let's find out. Who's our writer? DC Fontana. We're in good hands. John Meredith Lucas.
Lieutenant Uhura, code a message to Starfleet Command. Advise them of our situation. Include all log entries to this point. Spock, your sensors read clear. What happened?
They're cloaked.
You have been identified as the Starship Enterprise.
What's up?
You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy you.
What did you expect?
We give you 1 of your hours. If you do not surrender your ship at the end of that time, your destruction is certain.
Okay.
A subspace message will take 3 weeks to reach Starfleet. The decision is yours, Captain. 1 hour.
And you've already invaded, basically.
I believe the Romulans have developed a cloaking device, which renders our tracking sensors useless.
They caught us right enough.
Well, that's a brilliant observation, Mr. Scott. Do you have any other helpful opinions?
Yeah, we shouldn't have gone in here.
We can fight and be destroyed. Or we can destroy the Enterprise ourselves and keep her from the Romulans, or we can surrender.
What are we doing here, Jim?
If we had not crossed the neutral zone, on your order, you would not now need our opinions to support a decision which should never have had to be made.
Right.
You ordered us. You had no authority.
Dismissed, Doctor.
He can have you removed from command, dude. At this point, I think Spock would concur.
The commander wishes to see you and your first officer aboard this vessel. Granted, we do not easily trust each other, Captain. But you are the ones who violated our territory.
Yeah.
Give us your transporter coordinates. We're beaming aboard.
Was this what he always wanted, to talk to this guy?
You're to fight, and if necessary, destroy yourselves. Is that clear?
Perfectly clear.
It's pretty straightforward, Jim. Or whoever you are. Scotty's like, what?
Captain Kirk,
Well, well, well.
the matter of trespass into Romulan space is one of galactic import. A violation of treaties.
I like the one arm.
You were saying instrument failure, as radical as you suggest, went unnoticed until you were well past the neutral zone.
Accidents can happen. Cut off. Backup systems can malfunction.
Jim says all horseshit.
Captain,
Now listen
a
to me.
Romulan vessel ventured far into Federation territory without good explanation. What would a starbase commander do?
Blow it up.
It works both ways.
Yeah. Jim, what is going on?
What earns Spock your special interest?
He is a Vulcan. Our forebears had the same roots. That Vulcans are incapable of lying.
It is no myth.
So she's gonna ask him what happened to the Enterprise.
It is unworthy of a Vulcan to resort to subterfuge.
You're being clever, Commander.
Ha.
You've been told everything. There's nothing else to say.
There is Mr. Spock's unspoken truth.
I'm having a lot of problems with this setup.
You deliberately violated Romulan space with a blatant spy mission by order of the Federation.
We've been
Command.
all through that, Commander.
We have not even begun!
She's 100% in the right.
The strain of command has worn heavily upon him. He has not been himself for several weeks.
That's a lie.
As you can see, Captain Kirk is a highly sensitive and emotional person. The commander's suspicion that Starfleet ordered the Enterprise into the neutral zone is unacceptable. That Captain Kirk ordered the Enterprise across the neutral zone on his own initiative and his craving for glory. He is not sane.
What the fuck is going on?
It was Captain Kirk who was solely responsible. Since the crew had no choice but to obey orders, the crew will not be held responsible. You will there be processed and released to Federation Command. Until judgment is passed, Captain Kirk will be held in confinement.
This is so strange.
And if you make any attempt to board or commandeer the Enterprise, it will be blown to bits along with as many of you as we can take with us.
Haha.
Did you hear that, you coward? You've betrayed everything of value you ever knew. Did you hear the sound of human integrity?
Take him to the security room.
Okay, so this is a ploy, I guess? I don't know what the hell's going on.
You are a superior being. Why do you not command?
This is so confusing.
I will see to that. If you will stop looking on the Federation as the whole universe. It is not, you know.
That thought has occasionally crossed my mind.
I mean, is this a way to really get in with the Romulan? I don't understand. This seems half-baked at best.
It would be a great achievement for me to bring home the Enterprise intact. It would broaden the scope of my powers greatly.
Whew. Is it weird to say that I'm liking Spock's brain more than this one? So far, very confused. Cool shot. Take that with our Dutch door force field.
Doctor, you must beam aboard the Romulan flagship immediately. There's been an injury.
I don't make house calls. He'll recover, but he'll need further attention. Inform your superior.
This is the craziest episode. And not in a good way. Now, they might tie it all together, and then I'll
expect you for dinner. We have much to discuss.
Okay.
Will you join me for dinner?
I am honored, Commander. Are the guards also invited?
I like the what they've done with the set, dressing it up like a Romulan craft.
That corridor is forbidden to all but loyal Romulans.
Of course. I shall obey your restrictions.
If this is all a ploy, you're taking a hell of a risk that this commander is going to behave in the way that she has. I mean, there's a lot of leaps of, ironically, logic in this story.
Are you the doctor?
That was a cool, like the retract. Yeah, that's really cool there.
Could this mental incapacity have afflicted him earlier?
Yes, it's possible.
He was and is unfit to continue in command of the Enterprise. That duty has now fallen on you.
There's no price you could pay that would make him sell out.
The matter is not open for discussion, Doctor.
What do you mean the matter's not open for discussion?
That's enough, Doctor.
It's a mind meld.
I was unprepared for his attack. I instinctively used the Vulcan death grip.
Is there such a thing as the Vulcan death grip? This episode is all over the place. They're going to need to lasso this sumbitch back together. I'm going to need to have some type of like cosmic resolution.
Doctor!
Sweet shit!
Spock gave him a nerve pinch to simulate death.
Then Mr. Spock isn't a traitor.
See how happy Christine is? Christine loves Spock. Did it work? That's what he's got. If he says, did it work, I'm back in.
My neck feels like it's been twisted off.
That's the Vulcan death grip for you.
There's no such thing as a Vulcan death grip.
I retract my earlier question.
As far as the rest of the crew is concerned, I'm still dead.
Why?
That's an order.
We're surrounded by enemy vessels ready to attack us. I don't know of anything more urgent than that.
Well, I do. Mr. Scott, please.
Get your ass down here. It's a hell of a situation.
Right, Doctor. What's so urgent that...
Sweet shit. Sweet shit.
Well, you look like the devil himself, but as long as you're alive, what's it all about?
Yes, that's my question.
I'll need a Romulan uniform.
Aye, it'll be a pleasure.
What are we doing?
I've had special Vulcan dishes prepared for you.
They're all plastic.
It is indeed a very powerful recruiting inducement.
The food?
We have other inducements.
Romulan ale, I guess, right? Is it blue?
Scotty, are you sure we have a clear channel to Spock?
Aye, sir.
What is going on?
But Mr. Spock hasn't set the proper coordinates yet.
Can't be helped, Scotty.
You're taking an awful chance, Jim.
Now, see, again, even if this is all planned, this could destroy the plan by sending him in like this. Here's some orange. It smells like butthole, but it's good. Surprisingly.
We will find a place for you, if you wish it.
In place.
Do you have any more of this butthole liqueur?
Romulan women are not like Vulcan females.
Like, how did they know she would act like this? How did they know they run into a commander that gives Spock this option?
You will lead a small party of Romulans aboard the Enterprise. And there you will take your rightful place as its commander.
But not just this moment. An hour from now will do.
Is this all to get Spock a love interest for an episode?
You do know I have a first name.
I was beginning to wonder.
Huh.
Would you like to hear it?
Sure. Oh, they're not going to let us know?
If you will give me a moment, the soldier will transform herself into a woman.
This is definitely interesting as far as I've been keeping an open mind. I'm assuming they're going to tie this all together, but boy, there's a lot of if coming off this plan.
The cloaking device is in an area near the commander's quarters. It is closely guarded and off limits to all but authorized personnel.
Subcommander Tao, I'm receiving an alien transmission from within our vessel, sir.
I was going to say they're definitely going to pick that up.
Is my attire now more appropriate?
This is my beachwear. I have prepared a luau. I love that they send in Spock to romance the commander, the Romulan commander. It's absolutely great. Let's take the guy without emotions and put him in the Casanova category. Love it.
Has someone tried to gain entrance there?
I must see your authorization,
Over there.
sir.
Ha ha! You've been chopped.
I must confess that I, too, am moved emotionally. I know it is illogical.
Mr. Spock.
So is he telling the truth there? In theory, he's telling the truth, right?
Not now, Cal.
It is urgent, Commander.
That's just some good acting there. I mean, that he sold me on the moment.
The cloaking device. Bring him.
Well, that didn't take long for them to figure it out.
Oh, don't move. Who are you? What are you doing in here?
I came from behind the camera.
Drop your weapon.
Now dance for me. Aha! I want you to think about what's going to happen to you. And now, boot to the head. That looks like the changeling. What was the name of that probe? The top of it looks like the... It's probably not, but... He made it away with our karaoke machine.
But, sir, what about Mr. Spock?
Fuck him.
Why would you do this to me? What are you that you could do this?
I'm Spock.
First officer of the Enterprise. What is your present form of execution?
Do I have a choice?
Commander Scott has less than 15 minutes to install the Romulan's cloaking device and get it working.
Is that all? What's he going to do with the other 13 minutes?
Mr. Spock is still aboard the Romulan flagship. I want his body readings pinpointed and isolated. That was not a request, gentlemen.
Let's get moving.
Execution of state criminals is both painful and unpleasant.
Aren't they the same?
Proceed, Commander Spock.
My crime is sabotage.
Sabotage.
Very well. Your 20 minutes is almost up.
20 minutes? Okay, so he's buying himself time. Got it.
I've got the device installed, but bless me if I know whether it's going to work. It's the biggest guess I've ever made.
We trust you, Scotty.
There is also the combined Romulan-Vulcan history of obedience to...
Transporter room reports Mr. Spock aboard, sir, and the Romulan commander.
The commander?
Aye, sir.
All right. Take us away from the Romulans. Warp factor 9.
Wow.
Alert all vessels. Weapons officer, bring main batteries to bear on the Enterprise.
I'm going to speak slower so it gets farther and farther away.
But you will be dead in a moment. And the credit would be gratuitous.
Lieutenant, open a channel to the Romulan vessel.
Aye, sir.
They're not going to not stop because you've got their commander.
This is Captain Kirk. Hold your fire. We have your commander aboard.
Doesn't matter.
Destroy this vessel. I gave you a direct command. Tell!
Nice.
Flank speed. Weapons officer, stand by to fire main batteries as soon as we reach optimum range.
Optimum range.
Scotty.
It's ready now, Captain, but I don't know whether our circuits can handle this alien contraption.
Let's give it a roll. Let's rock.
Roll the switch.
It'll likely overload.
Just do it. It's badass. Where'd my beauty go?
Quickly, compute enemy course from last position and open fire.
Yes, sir.
Soon it'll come about. 318 Mark 7.
Nice. Run for the neutral zone. Run for the neutral zone.
The cloaking device is working perfectly.
Now.
If I may be taken to your brig, I will take my place as your prisoner.
Mr. Spock will have the honor of escorting you to your quarters.
Don't be benevolent here, Jim. I mean, this is an act of war that you somehow pulled off this crazy game of poker.
All the Federation wanted was the cloaking device.
The Federation. And what did you want?
Nothing. I'm Spock. I don't...
You realize that very soon we will learn to penetrate the cloaking device you stole.
Obviously. Military secrets are the most fleeting of all. I hope that you and I exchanged something more permanent.
Really?
I'm going to bob your ears.
Captain, please go. Somehow they do not look aesthetically agreeable on humans.
I like watching them have fun. All right, everyone, we just got done watching the second episode of the third season of Star Trek, the original series, The Enterprise Incident, and the only thing left to do is talk about it. All right, everybody, we just watched Season 3, Episode 2, The Enterprise Incident of the original series. Okay, full disclosure, I mean, let's go ahead and do this. We've had 2 episodes so far in Season 3, Spock's Brain and The Enterprise Incident, and somehow... I liked this one less than Spock's Brain. Let me try to put together why. There's no logic in this. I mean, we needed some really good explanation as to why the subterfuge that encompassed the Enterprise as well. Now, I mean, there's speculation. It's like you're not sure who was going to be maybe interrogated by the... Okay, let's break it down as to what was the goal here. It's obvious that the goal was to acquire the new technology, acquire the cloaking device technology, wartime secrets or like military secrets, like Spock said, are the most fleeting. So we needed to get the cloaking device in a way to circumvent the cloaking device. You can't have somebody have a bit of technology that could dramatically imbalance, the sector or space entirely. So I completely understand the need for this type of action, for this type of, mission, get in there, steal it, come back out. There's a couple things, though, that there's more than a couple things. Okay, so to pull this off, this is the way it was presented. And again, please correct me if I missed something, because I would love it if someone was like, dude, you missed like 2 sentences that were incredibly important, and that would give me a much better look at this episode. So you have, basically for this whole subterfuge play acting thing to work, Jim's been acting weird for the last couple weeks, to the point where McCoy makes an entry into his log about it. Now, could McCoy have been in on it? Yes, he seemed to be in on it anyway, whenever Christine came in and said, oh my God, he's alive. And he's like, well, now that you're in on it, blah, blah, blah. So if that's the case, my question is this. Then you have McCoy, who made an erroneous log entry in the event that I guess the Romulans looked at the logs. He did say, whenever he said, send this communique to the Federation, to Starfleet, include all recent logs. So if that's the case, then maybe if the most recent batch of logs will go through, if it was intercepted by the Romulans, they would then read these logs and be like, oh, the chief medical officer thinks there's something wrong with the captain. This explains why he's gone off the deep end. That's why he's here. The story checks out. I got it. Completely understand that, you went through this massive subterfuge to get to this point. Now, why keep the rest of the crew in the dark? The logic dictates if you don't know who's going to be interrogated by the Romulans. It could be Sulu, it could be Uhura, it could be, Kyle, it could be anybody on the boat, could be. And if you have the rumor going around, the captain hasn't been acting right for 3 weeks or whatever it is, and you actually have people that are in the dark, like Uhura definitely seemed to be in the dark. We never got an order I didn't receive anything. And these were all inner exchanges with other crew members. It wasn't like they were putting on an act in front of somebody. And she said, no, we never received an order. That was the aside with Scotty. No, we never received orders for this. Scotty's like, what the hell's going on? So everybody, including, you can only think that the 3 that were involved, definitely, obviously, Spock and Kirk. McCoy, likely, because of having to doctor the log, no pun intended. And then obviously, pronouncing him dead and, Christine being surprised and Plum not. Okay, so let's just say that was how they set everything up. I think it was weirdly designed, for this particular instance. Secondly, there's a lot of if coming off this plan. Like, if this happens, we're okay. If that happens, we're okay. If we can answer and kind of skate by all these ifs, we might actually have an accomplished mission. Here's why. The variables on the Romulan side of everything are ridiculous. For instance, you don't even know if when you cross the neutral zone, how long you're going to be in Romulan space before they appear. There's the joke in Star Trek Lower Decks where anytime you get close to the neutral zone of anything, you know, as soon as they leave, like they don't cross it, but as soon as they leave, you'll see like a Romulan bird of prey or a Romulan warbird or whatever they are called materialize. Dridex? Dridex, I think those, it'll appear there and they'll say, almost had some. Let's go lurk over in Sector 7. And then they disappear and go over, you know, presumably to Sector 7. But I think I mean, space is big. The neutral zone is big. You know, the border and everything is immense. You're assuming that as soon as you cross, you're going to be, you know, a couple Romulans are going to just, happen upon you. Now, it's easy to wipe that away. You can say, oh, well, they could have been flying in Romulan space for 12 hours. It didn't seem like that, but, you know, maybe there was a time drag that they just didn't talk about. Okay, I'm willing to go along with that. The thing I'm not willing to go along with is, what if we had a Romulan commander who just thought, you know what, I'm going to destroy this ship and I'm going to pull its hull or whatever's left of it back to the nearest dock as a prize and be like, aha, I got one, you know? Okay, so that's the first hurdle to get across. Okay, they somehow did that. There are 3 Romulan craft there, and it just so happens that the, you know, commander of all of these craft is willing, A, to talk, B, to have you come over to their ship because they're intrigued by Spock. Again, that could have gone any way. I know just from the limited Star Trek that I've seen that really easily could have been like, oh, a Vulcan, we Romulans hate Vulcans, we're going to destroy you now. Or it could have gone negative, you know, it could have gone in a completely different way. Okay, so somehow they got past that hurdle. The next hurdle is they bring everybody over. First off, you didn't know if they were going to even invite you over to the craft. That there was nothing that could have said that they had to do that. In fact, that is a very weird thing to do. We've got you dead bang. Why don't you come over and talk to us on our ship? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Secondly, if they did make that overture, well, who's to say that whenever you went over in the hopes of getting to their, you know, cloaking device, that they weren't like, okay, guards, put them in the brig. We've got their captain and first officer now. Ha ha, F you. You know, that would seem like the more logical way for the Romulans to behave, right? Let's get past that hurdle. Okay, so somehow everything's going well. Kirk acts crazy, you know, he acts imbalanced, and then the Vulcan death grip kills him. Okay, that assumes that the Romulans don't look at Spock and go, well, that's bullshit. There is no Vulcan death grip. I mean, somebody on this Romulan craft knows Vulcans well enough to know there's no such thing as a death grip, you lying pieces of shit, you know, or they, you know, go and check Kirk and they're like, no, the life signs are there. They're just very weak. And they're like, what are you trying to pull? Let's say we get past all that. We get past all that, and dead Kirk is taken back over to the Enterprise, which they release the body. Okay, we get past that point. Now we've got Spock over there who's identified where the cloaking device is by chance, that he just happened to like take the wrong turn down the corridor. Oh, that's not for you. Now this is probably the biggest leap of faith for me. You have a commander. And it doesn't matter, you know, female or male commander. You have a commander that falls basically for Spock. Not only do they fall for Spock, but and the Romulans that I've seen take arrogance to another level. I love and loathe the Romulans. They're my favorite, air quote, villains of Star Trek. I think they are incredible tacticians. They are very, very full of themselves, which I think makes just a really great adversary. Somebody that doesn't think they could possibly lose. You know what I mean? Just really, really good stuff. And I love the Romulans for that very thing. And I can't stand them for the very same thing. You know, like, you sons of bitches think you're so much better than everybody else. Most of the time they are, though. Okay, so you meet a commander who is basically as un-Romulan-like as you can be at this point, and the fact that they not only fancy some private time with the Vulcan on the crew, that they are not immediately repulsed when they hear that he's not only Vulcan but half human. To me, it's like that's like the two people that the Romulans hate the most. You know, humans and Vulcans. I think they don't get along with the Klingons either, but I haven't seen any real instances of that yet. But I've heard some people talking that, you know, they don't usually get along. But okay, you get past all that, you meet that one commander in a million that is not only willing to have you come over to their ship, but then engage in small talk and then kind of fall for Spock. And then say, well, you know what, we can promote you, you can take over the craft, you can, we'll find a place for you in the Romulan Empire, you know. Then you make a fucking call from inside their ship on your communicator, which is immediately picked up by them. And they don't just come in and he comes out and holds his communicator up and they don't just shoot Spock dead, you know, like, and okay, so here's the other thing too. I know, and I've been trying to remember where this is, where we saw, and I'm pretty sure it's Lower Decks, where there was mention that the only way to kind of go up in rank in the Romulan Empire, I might be confusing this with the Klingons, but I always thought that it was like the Romulan sub-commanders that would like assassinate the commanders to take over. Like that's how it works. Survival of the fittest, I guess, or something like that. But, you know, okay, so this is the Romulan craft where they are very loyal to their commander and they don't look at her and say, okay, you've compromised everything. We've probably lost I'm killing you and taking over, you know, Sub-Commander Tal. It's just, there's so much, like, not only is this plan very, very loose and very, very left up to chance, it's almost laughable because you are basically hoping that you find that one singular Romulan commander and that one singular Romulan crew and sub-commander that don't immediately kill him or her. There was just a lot that didn't make sense in this one. And now I'm going to say this, and I'm going to leave this for Q&A, but this is my thought going into this, friends. We know that Gene Kuhn is no longer here for season 3. You know, he left at some point in the production of season 2. He and Roddenberry did not get along real well. It was Bread and Circuses, I think, was the one that I remember from the Q&A that was the one that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Plus, Gene Kuhn was suffering from throat cancer at the time. I believe he dies from it in 72 or 73. But Gene Kuhn was the person that had like all the background, you know. Again, DC Fontana contributed a ton to everything as well. So I do not want to sell short her contributions to all of this. But I do think that if the two of them, DC Fontana and Gene Kuhn, had the ability to kind of bounce this off of one another, like how would the Romulans act, this would have been smoothed out considerably. But in many ways, it almost seems like someone was told what the Romulans were like. And I know this can't be DC Fontana. Someone was told what the Romulans were like and then just assumed that they had it right. You know, they didn't do any fact checking, really didn't have any like experience with Romulans. And we know that DC Fontana she is the de facto showrunner and has been for, you know, she's like the continuity coordinator, making sure everything kind of stays true. And I'm certainly not placing any of this blame on her at her feet because she's the credited writer for the episode. I just think that, excuse me, I just think that this was something that desperately required like a group to talk about. You know, we really need to go over this, make sure we get this right. And unfortunately, friends, I don't think it was. Well, but it was Star Trek and it was fun. We got to see Jim dressed up like a Romulan. That was something. Wait. Have you forgotten something? 'Tis I, leader of men, lover of women, and best friend to Jim Kirk, General Trelane, retired. Friends, this is where, having watched and reacted to an original series episode, I like to learn a little bit more about it and dig a little bit deeper and find out some of the things that if I had looked up before watching the episode would have ruined it for me. But to keep myself from wandering off into the weeds and talking for 3 hours, I've given myself 5 categories with which to explore. The first, writer and director. Who were they? The second, guest stars. Did we have any? 3 of the core cast, or the big 8, who was present? fourth and the juiciest of all the categories, the production notes, what went on behind the cameras. And last but certainly not least, our fifth category, a memorable quote from this episode. Let's get started. All right, friends, and for our very first category, writer and director, who were they? Well, two well-known names here in the Star Trek Original Series universe. Our writer was none other than DC Fontana, and our director, none other than normal producer John Meredith Lucas, who has been taking on the directorial role quite a bit recently at the end of Season 2 and here now at the beginning of Season 3. Very, very interesting. Two vets on board and taking care of us for this episode. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our second category, guest stars, did we have any? We certainly did, my friends, because here on the Enterprise incident, we did have a couple, albeit they weren't necessarily named, which is odd. I didn't realize we never got the commander of the Romulans' name. The Joanne Linville played the Romulan commander never having been named, apparently. And who else did we have? Jack Donner as Sub-Commander Tal. So we did have two of them, one named and one not. Interesting. Let's move on. And now for our third category, friends, of the core cast, or the Big Eight, who was present. So who are the Big Eight? We have Kirk, Spock, McCoy, we have Uhura, Scotty, Sulu, and we also have Chekhov and Chapel. Good news, my friends, all hands present and accounted for. The Big Eight in its totality here aboard ship. Let's move on. All right, friends, and now for our fourth category, the juiciest of all of them, the production notes. What went on behind the cameras of this episode of the original series? Well, first and foremost, this episode is the first to feature a female starship commander. Good stuff. Good way to start. Let's move on. Now, this one is a little bit, I got a little sour when I read this one because it takes away a lot off the table for me for the rest of Season 3. For our second production note, this is the second and final appearance of Romulan characters in Star Trek, the original series. That breaks my heart because the Romulans are someone I absolutely love to hate, and I think they are, for me anyway, what I've seen so far are my primary villains for the Enterprise and everybody. I think they are fantastic tacticians, and they are somebody like we've seen in Balance of Terror that are not necessarily someone that you're just going to vilify at every corner, especially since Balance of Terror. Oh well, friends. Let's move on. Now for our third production note, and in sticking with this, the Romulan theme that we have for this one, this is the first mention of any relationship between the Romulan Star Empire and the Klingon Empire. The idea that the Klingons and Romulans have formed an alliance of some sort has been developed extensively in the expanded universe, apparently. However, in this episode, Spock only confirms that the Romulans and the Klingons are sharing ship designs, which I think is very interesting, but it falls pretty well short of like an actual alliance between the two. Still, ship designs, military secrets, cloaking devices, things like that, that seems pretty cozy to me. But what do I know? Let's move on. And now for our fourth production note, friends, and this one is a bit serialized, which I like quite a bit, but I'll let you know what we have to say here. The Romulan commander suggests to Spock that the reason why he hasn't been given command is because he's a Vulcan or half Vulcan. But we know that that is not correct because in the Immunity Syndrome, we had news of the USS Intrepid, which was a ship entirely crewed by Vulcans. And so, logic dictates that the captain of that craft would also have been Vulcan. So that pretty much shoots down the Romulan commander's theory that it was his heritage that kept him out of the chair. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our fifth and final production note, this is a quote from DC Fontana. I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's pretty big, but the first couple lines I want to give it to you, and then I'll sum up or paraphrase the rest of it for you. I quote, "Overall, it was not a bad episode, but I did have a lot of complaints about it and things that weren't approached or handled right. Let's face it, the romantic scene between the Romulan commander and Spock was totally out of context. Any Romulan worth her salt would have instantly suspected Spock because they are related races. That was wrong. Kirk's attitudes were wrong." And she goes on to say a bunch of the other things that she didn't like about this, but I'll sum up. Initially in her script, the cloaking device, the actual kind of hardware for the cloaking device, was about the size of a watch. And she said whenever she saw the final kind of rendition, and she said it was like Kirk was running around with a lamp. She thought they didn't lose. A lot of the nuances that she had put into it had been kind of subverted. And so with that, she had a kind of a sour taste in her mouth for this particular episode. And also what I have been learning from my additional reading into a lot of what's going on here is it seems that the creative leads, especially Roddenberry and Fontana, were being split in multiple different directions, especially Roddenberry, who was preparing another project at this time because he felt that Star Trek was ending, deservedly so. But it's sort of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was Star Trek going away because of this and Roddenberry was getting a new show, or was Roddenberry looking for a new show and that led to kind of a degradation of Star Trek? Who knows, my friends? Let's move on. And last but certainly not least, my friends, our fifth and final category is a memorable quote from this episode. And I thought what I would do is take that really cool exchange between the Romulan commander and Spock. At least it was one of the only cool exchanges between the two that didn't really have, like DC Fontana said, a couple questions lingering in the stratosphere about why exactly it was going on. But here's the quote. First speaking is the Romulan commander. "Why would you do this to me? What are you that you could do this?" And Spock responds, "First officer of the Enterprise." Thus ends another installment of Q&A. My dear friends and compatriots, until we get a chance to meet and talk again, behave yourselves.